Hi everyone and welcome back to Dev Show. This is the 33 episode of Dev Show, and for those of you that is very first time that you're joining us, Dev Show is a weekly event from developers to developers, and on each episode we are having a deep dive in a specific topic. My name is Sherry List, and I am your host and the only host today. The reason is that my good colleague Rasmus, that he normally hosting these dev shows with me, he's having a very green screen. We have to find out next time that what was that very green screen that prevented him to join us today. But anyways, we are here, and I'm happy that we have you all. And just a few things before I bring our speaker today online. I wanted to mention you and reminding you that from a code of conduct, which I have the link here, and a in very short, we really want you to be mindful and respectful of each other. We want you to interact with each other via the chat, no matter if you're watching us on Learn TV, on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube. I want you to to use our chat functionality to talk to each other and also talk to us, because all of you can also ask your question via the chat, and I'm going to highlight it to our speaker at the end of the show in the Q&A session, and he's going to answer those questions. Also, all of you are going to get a brand new Azure Heroes Learner Badger. I'm going to highlight the link in the chat, but also going to talk about it later on at the outro part as well. And speaking of question and answer, we are going to also give like a special swag box to the best question. So try your chance and then ask your question. Our speaker is going to help us to choose the most relevant question that hopefully start even a discussion among all of us. I know you all are waiting to have the speaker on the show, so I'm going to bring him on. Hi Jens, how are you?
Hi, Sherry. I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I believe that the summer is over in Copenhagen. Don't you think so?
Yeah, they might mention that sometime next week there's going to be some summer, but maybe that's the end of it.
Yes, I was pretty surprised this morning. And by the way, May the first be with you. So
Yeah, you too.
yeah, and I was supposed to wear a relevant T-shirt, but since it's too cold, I ended up having my winter shirt again. So yes, you're an MVP. Maybe you
Yes.
can tell our audience that how you actually become an MVP.
Well, there are, to my knowledge, several ways you can become an MVP. And one thing is to interact with the Microsoft product teams. You can evolve around the product that you interact with. You can come up with cool tools that are used by many people around the globe for that specific Microsoft tool or technology. You can kind of advocate Microsoft tools to the broader audience, like this, a show on YouTube or anything in person. Usually they were in person, but now they're all online due to the circumstances. But I used to have an agreement with my wife that I could, leave the home for a number of occasions.
Yeah, I remember that I met you in many of the different events. But I also know that you're actually engaging even more with the community by organizing conferences as well, such as SQL Saturday. Maybe you can tell us about that, and then when is going to be the next one?
Yeah, yeah. So SQL Saturday is an event type that began in the US a long time ago, and it's spread out across the world. and reached 1,000 events worldwide before it finally caved in. SQL Pass, the organization, shut down. But the event itself has been bought by Redgate. So let's see. In the meantime, the community behind SQL Saturday started up Data Saturday. So if it's Data Saturday or SQL Saturday, it's around November-ish. I think we're going to have kind of a data event in Copenhagen.
Wow.
Maybe if it allows us in person, but let's
Oh,
see.
yeah, fingers crossed for that. I
Yeah,
guess all of us we miss in-person events.
yeah, we do, we do.
Yeah. And totally different topic. I know that you and me we have one thing in common, which is love for coffee. Maybe you can tell us that how do you brew your coffee every day?
Yes, every day starts the same. I get out of bed and have a shower, and then I put on the kettle. I use a pour over coffee technique every day and bring my coffee to work. We have a coffee machine at work, but I bring my own coffee. So I'm a bit. I even roast it myself. I have a slide on that in the deck as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. I never actually roasted the coffee. But yeah, that's I'm with you. I also love to have my own coffee that I brew. Um, and I know that you also somehow in an active member of music community, or maybe you were. Maybe you can tell
Yes,
us about that.
that was many years ago. We started out. It was my, um, I even went to kindergarten with one of the guys. I still know him. He's a close friend of mine, and we started a band and played in the. There was a competition, Danish rock competition, where we went pretty far, but not that far. But it was an a lot of years with a fun experiences on the
Oh, that's
music
fun.
stage.
So, well, were you playing or were you singing?
I was playing lead guitar.
Lead guitar. Oh, okay, that's very cool. Are you still playing sometime?
No, I
No,
still have
no.
all the gear, but well, 3 kids and a dog. Yeah, well, I have to sleep as well. So
Yeah, that's true. Okay, great. I guess it was nice getting to know you. And I would just say that stage is yours. If you share your screen, I am going to also add it here. And
yes,
then for those of you that you just joined us, please make sure that to ask all of your question from Jens. I'm going to later on highlight it for him on the screen, and he's going to answer them.
okay. So I guess
Yes,
the screen is sharing.
yes.
Just
So
start
stage
the.
is yours.
Thank you. I will hide this one so we can go on. So this is kind of a journey for us moving from on-prem to the cloud, and we've had a lot of discussions along the way, and there's been some choices made, and some technologies has been tried out, and some has been left behind, and this is a testament to how we kind of got where we are today. And I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards. And I'm sure we made some poor choices along the way, but that only, made us stronger. So I'll begin a little bit about me, and then 4 seasons of Catman, so to speak. I've been part of 3 of them. So the one of the number 3 one is maybe a little vague on direct decisions, but the rest of them I can vouch for. So a little bit about me. I'm born and raised on Lolland. No, it's just Lolland, not Lolland Falster. So more specifically in Holeby, it's a small town with I don't know, at that time 5 banks and 2,000 people there. So today there is 0 banks and still I think 2,000 people. So much has changed, but then again not. My first computer, my dad brought home a Commodore PET in the late 70s, where I began programming. Yes, I'm that old. And that actually, kickstarted this whole interest in computers. Also, computers carry on into my present day. As we just discussed, I roast my own coffee, and I just recently acquired this machine, which I'm overly excited about. I've been roasting on a less than average device over a lot of years, and this is a really nice upgrade to my roasting. Education-wise, I've tried to be an engineer. I tried on physics, astronomy, but then in the end, I ended up with computer science, which I kind of knew all along from back then when I was 7, 8 years old and was sitting at the computer. After my education was done, the IT bubble burst, and I was a freelance web developer on various sites for a couple of years. And then some company named Azure Software Solution hired me, and they became Knowledge Cube, which then in the end became Catman Solution. In the meantime, I was a consultant in Rayfield Partners with helping out in the hospitals and medical industry. And I was also at Maersk Line for some time, where I was, sheriffing all of the MSBI there, ending up in Catman Solution about 5 years ago now, back again. So this is kind of my career company-wise over the past 20 years. And actually, it all began when I began. Well, some say a little bit before, but when I began in Catman, we started developing the first edition of what we know as our service today. And this was our own data center. So we had a computer in a small room in an apartment, and we called that our data center. And reporting was not really that elaborate at the time, but there was a company called Dundas who made some very eloquent charts, and we found out a way to incorporate those in an ASP.NET application and made some XML-based configuration on top of that, so we could actually host multiple customers with their own ideas to how they would want to see their reports with the same piece of code. And that's actually what we named. Well, the first version was Catman Focus, and as soon as we were able to host multiple clients, we called it Catman Solution. That was turned into the company name later on. Back then, there was an ETL-DB, we called it. It was Stored Procedures Analysis Services 2000 edition. Reporting services was too young. We had a combination of Arium.net and XML for analysis services, in which we combined them. Yeah, it was back in the really old days. So this was a highly specialized kind of web application, which me and one other knew about at that time. So we, as I said, made an extensive use of Dundas charts, and the first real customer we had on this solution was Ale. Ale was really the initiator of this application. It actually went from an Excel-based solution to a web-based client. I'm going fairly quickly through these historical decisions, but that's just to let you know of the legacy and maybe some of the reasons why we have chosen how we did along the road. So in 2005, Analysis Services 2005 shipped, and it was on the market for a couple of years, and there was no push to move from 2000 to 2005. So I realized that if I'm going to evolve, I need to be somewhere else, which is why I made the jump into consultancy. Actually, my list was incorrect. I was 4 months at KMD, but that was a mismatch, so I had to move on from there. But there was really no push to move to a new edition, and I knew that I had to work with the newest stuff all the time. So I left, and while I was away, they built up a new setup, and it was kind of a new stack on the block. Reporting services was starting to catch on. They moved on to Azure Analysis, oh no, not Azure, just Analysis Services 2008, which was around 2008, and it was built in SharePoint portal, which meant less configuration, but very customized towards each client. So besides the, I don't know, 50, 75 basic reports, we had about 180 custom reports that we needed to maintain alongside with the database and analysis services and so on. At that time, there was a prominent client. We had a very large corporation with Nokia and reporting from all of their stores. And as you know, in the late zeros, they were a thing until a certain iPhone came along. And we don't have Nokia as a client today. Right. So in about 5 years later, Power BI comes along in July 2015, to be more precise. And I was at that time at Maersk Line, fighting to get Maersk Line to use that absolutely wonderful tool. However, they decided to go with MicroStrategy, and I decided not to tag along on that journey. I, however, acquired a lot of knowledge about Power BI during my time at Maersk. So when I met up with Eric, who is another partner in Catman, around some community work, we got to talk about actually moving Catman to the cloud. So I accepted a position and was kind of in the lead of taking the on-prem solution to cloud. But actually, a year or so before that, the initial work was laid out. So the old ETL-DB was replaced with what was codenamed Initium. And this was a new kind of way of working. I think WebJobs has seen first light at that time. They were not that old technology at the time, but they actually solved a lot of issues for us in terms of automation and queuing and so on. So we built a kind of a metadata-driven setup where we had our own Catman Sys database, and where we registered everything from the client name to each step in a certain package that we would apply to a file that came along. So all of the, process information is actually stored in that database. We kind of did some upgrades to that in 2018, and currently it's under the codename Redwood. We don't know if we are going to need another edition, but probably. Because as you'll see at the end, we are looking at new technologies to expand kind of our service, what we can offer to our clients, and how easy we can we do it any easier on us and with less effort. But we'll have a look at that. Maybe more in detail on the service as we have present is that we have these web jobs that are actually a central part of what we do. We have web jobs for different tasks. We have web jobs to process data. We have web jobs to read emails off of email accounts from FTP sites, and we use them to notify customers, validate data, and send out notifications based on those validations, and also to orchestrate all of those individual tasks. Now, one of the issues that we have currently is that this is kind of a sequential flow through the application, and we want to kind of utilize the cloud more, and this kind of scale up out scenario is very appealing to us. So we need to figure out how can we actually change our application into actually going in that direction. The current architecture, roughly, and I know some of the icons are maybe a little bit misleading. The process incoming data is not a container-based, but I couldn't find the right icon for web jobs. But in the bigger perspective, we have a web application that controls all other web jobs than the process incoming data job. So reading mail, storage, and FTP files, and so on, is controlled by the web jobs in the web app, which is in this diagram named 1. So we have some landing storage where we actually land the data once we read it off of mails and files and SQL servers and whatnot. And we begin processing the data from there. We have the number 3 metadata stored in a SQL, Azure SQL database, which is kind of the central nerve to the whole system. So once we get an email from a specific client with an attachment, we can look up in the metadata database and say, all right, so this file needs to go to this client, and we need to apply these transformations to it. And those transformations are also stored in the Catman System. This also works with a queuing system. So we queue up data loads and notifications and processing steps and so on in a various number of queues. I believe we have somewhat 20 different queues for processing analysis services, refreshing data marts, reading stuff from various sources and so on. And all of those queues are kind of linked together via the Redwood application. We also have some logic apps. We are moving from a more schedule-based to a more event-driven architecture. So we want to have events drive the activation of web jobs or Azure Functions. This illustration does not include, at least not in text or image, Azure Function, but we use those as well. We've come across some limitations. Some of our models take longer than 10 minutes to process, or maybe even longer than 20 minutes to process, and Azure Functions are not that great for such long time spans. So we kept some in web jobs for that, but Azure Functions help us out in a lot of other scenarios as well. Once the process incoming data web job is kicking off, it's kind of like an ETL tool, but just in memory. And it's something that we built ourselves. It's based on regular expressions, which is it may sound a bit odd, but it's actually quite effectful. And obviously, the savvy data platform engineer might intervene and say, "So why didn't you go with BIML or SSIS just or anything else that was out there?" And to be honest, the variation and then again not in this setup is the reason why this is really the right way to go. I've not been I was a fan of BIML once, but I haven't seen it progress that much lately. In our scenario, we kind of need to generate a lot of BIML, sys packages at the end, and it was just not as easy to get, logging off of SSIS as it was with these web jobs. Web jobs are very easy to tap into, and you can control every step of what you're doing. So it was just a more safe route for us to go down. Once the process incoming data job has kind of done its ETL, some of the ETL is actually done on the SQL database itself, where it makes sense. So the in-memory operations are done where it makes sense, and the batch set operations are done on the SQL server where that makes sense. The web jobs know how to actually manipulate the jobs so that all of the in-memory jobs are completed before we push the data to the SQL database and then apply the operations there. And once it's done, it puts a message on another queue where we then process the changes in the data mart. So the SQL database in number 9 is actually where our client gets in their own data warehouse. So all of our clients have the same database schema. They can all import the same data. If we implement a source for one client, it's as easy as ticking a box to actually get it into another client. And that's also one of the major forces with this setup, is that we can actually sit with a customer at our first meeting, have them send some data that we already know, because we, after 20 years in the business, we know a good number of sources. We can just tick a few boxes, and they can watch their own data flow in the system as we speak. That's quite powerful. So once the data marts are updated, Analysis Services needs to be reprocessed, and once that's done, we can see the results in Power BI. And the move to Power BI was maybe the most controversial one, at least if you ask our clients. They really love the old reporting services set of reports that they had and that they had evolved over some years. And they didn't really buy into the new Power BI way of actually viewing data and dragging, dropping dimensions and attributes in and out. But after, I don't know, 6, 9 months, they were all, this is a way better experience than the old one. So they kind of needed a push towards Power BI, but once they had it in their hands, they soon realized that this was actually very powerful. The current architecture is kind of reflected in Microsoft's reference architectures. So if you have uh, the willingness to see the similarities, you can actually see the similarities. So external data comes into blob storage. In the Microsoft reference, it's Azure Data Factory that does all the orchestration. And you might ask, one of the questions in the chat might be, why don't you use Azure Data Factory? And we can take that if that comes up. But in the Microsoft reference architecture, it's obviously Data Factory that does the orchestration. And in this case, Azure Synapse for data storage and the data warehouse, which then loads data into analysis services and visualization in Power BI, just as we have it. One of the reasons that we currently not using Azure Synapse is that we need to divide our customers into their own little island. And we haven't really seen a good way of doing that in Synapse. So we would need, you know, to totally bulletproof separation, and we can ensure that by having each client in their own database. So if you watch number 9, it's actually an Azure SQL Elastic pool. And we can, in the current setup, we can host 100 clients in the same pool, and which is very efficient for us. So usually we land data from Monday midday to Wednesday midday, so to speak. So 48 hours of data loading is going on, but the customers seem to, you know, send in data spread out. So it makes perfect sense for us to actually use these elastic pools for our databases. If you have concurrent workloads, that might not be the case for you. You might want to look at managed instance instead. But for us, since no client is actually shipping data at exactly the same time, this works out very well for us. I'm just going to check my timing, and the next session or the next part will be about. I just need to find my water. There it is. Our kind of future thoughts. Excuse me. How do we see the next coming changes to our platform? We have a well-running engine as it is. We currently have about 70 clients running on it. So in terms of the Azure SQL Elastic Pool, we have a gap of 30 or so clients before we cap out. And we can even scale up the instance. But one of the things, I just need to cough. Just hang on a second. Let me just find the mute button. Sorry about that. One of the things that you can do with a cloud solution is that you can just put more power on the machine, or put on more machines so you scale up or out. But we also, I'm an old school coder, so I know that every bit counts, and we also have to look inwards to how can we actually improve our process. And currently, yes, here are some of our clients, and we hope to grow. Some of them are we are representing in multiple geographic locations. So we are currently present in the MENA area with ALA, 9 countries there, and also the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, and Finland is covered by our clients. So with some clients, we grow geographically, and some are just small time local companies. But as they see our solution, and they see the power of Power BI, they want to ingest more data into the solution, and we need to optimize how we ingest that data. And one of the things that we're looking to do is actually look into durable functions. We'll see in a minute why. We are also looking at Azure Synapse Analytics for various reasons. Machine learning to actually help our clients and take some work off their back. And also looking at the Power Platform integration, logic apps, the program known as Flow, which is now Power Automate, and also Power Apps, which we have a single Power App running. Some of the sales reps can actually go into a store and take a picture and then have it integrate that data along with any pictures they have into their reporting in Power BI with their service point of sale data, which makes it easy to keep track of. Also, I made this display in the store, and I can see that sales are up afterwards. Pat on my back, and so on. So we are trying to find ways to assist the sales reps out in the stores, and maybe even the store owners for doing their jobs a little bit easier. So why durable functions? I know there's been a talk on Azure Functions in this forum, but I don't know if there's been one on durable. It's a kind of stateful serverless functions, and in our case, that would enable a scenario called fan out, fan in. So let's say that we receive an email containing 20, maybe hundreds of files. We could just kick off the orchestrator function, and it would process every file in a parallel manner, and then report back to the orchestrator function once it's done. And this way we could actually not have all of the 100 files read in a sequential manner, but in a parallel manner. This would speed up our engine a lot. That's at least what we think. But let's see if we hit some issues with that. But that's something that we are going to look into. Also, we can implement something like restarts and checkpoints and so on, which would be of a better service, and we don't need to, rerun the whole shebang. So if we get a lot of data, we want to make, it possible for us to, fail gracefully and come back in the game quickly. So the Synapse Analytics platform is obviously Microsoft's, the old SQL data warehouse and whatever it's the parallel thing it was called before that. But obviously, it's for data integration, data warehousing, big data analytics, and so on. And those three not highlighted is not it. Well, we think we have a fine solution for data integration. We also think we have a fine solution for data warehousing. Big data analytics is not really a topic for us because we don't deal with big data. We have a lot of data, yes, but not big data as such. So that leaves the data exploration part and the machine learning part. And what Synapse Analytics does is that it actually ties these things together so you can do your data exploration in the same tool where you do your machine learning. That makes a lot of sense. We want to expose the data, which is not ours. We haven't bought the data, it's our client's data. So the client can do whatever they want with the data, and often they want to do exploration. And I believe everyone working in the data field has heard a customer request like, can I get a data dump? And even though you try to fight all of these requests very ferociously, you end up delivering a data dump to the client. And maybe that data exploration option in Synapse Analytics is the way to go with that. Synapse Analytics offers a lot of serverless options as well. So you can have a serverless SQL pool. You pay by, as you go, and you don't have have to have this huge data warehouse in the air all the time to actually accommodate those requests. And also, you can apply, you know, security around it and so on. As soon as you dump something in a CSV file, you lose all those connections to safety and regulations and so on. You don't know who's seeing that file, who's does it end up in the company billboard or whatever. So this is a way of actually tying down the customers to actually only allowing those who should be allowed in to browse the data. And then obviously the machine learning leg. I've had some thoughts on what we can do for our customers. One of the issues that we face is that if a product is issued a new label or color of packaging, it's a new barcode, and obviously our clients want to see a continuous sale on the same product. So they don't want to see one product ending at one day and then another kicking off another day. So we do product merges. Essentially, it's the same product when it comes out of our system, but it reports into the system differently. That's one where machine learning can actually identify which product should be merged. We can do product classification. We have had some successful tests with that, discovering categories, brands, and so on. And this is work that our clients need to do if no one else does it. And in data, it's imperative that you have this kind of master data, set and in place, because that does your reporting so much better. Also, maybe a more futuristic approach is the predictions and what if scenarios that we see that machine learning can actually assist us in achieving. And finally, Power Platform integration, logic apps. So logic app is the Azure equivalent to Power Automate, which is the Office equivalent. So in sense, they are the same, but not. It connects to, I don't know, over 300 different sources where you can actually have all kinds of triggers set off, all kinds of flows. You can have approval flows, and you can connect to data that you wouldn't be able to connect to otherwise. You can connect to services and so on. You can have all kinds of automation around systems that would normally be outside of your reach. And then finally, Power Apps, the AI builder, and you can connect to data at your mobile device, which is also sharing the same connectors as the entire Power Platform. And you can automate processes, like I just told you about the store evaluation. So a sales rep goes into a store, puts up a display, arranges all the products nicely, and snaps a picture. And this is something that normally would take them, an hour maybe to register all the products and position in the store and so on. But this is actually something they just, do on the fly. And we have requests from our clients asking, can we do a logic app or a store something like this, and can you assist us with that? So that's where we are looking to expand also, to tap in to the huge investment Microsoft has done into the Power Platform. And we are, one leg in already, because we do Power BI, and it's one of the three elements of Power Platform, at least the large ones. So it comes natural to us that this is just an extension to what we do. Right. I think that was maybe the quick walkthrough. I hope it made sense to someone out there. Um, I can, get back to the Azure Data Factory question if no one asks it, but I think it's where I have my questions slide. So Sherry, you can take it back, and we can take questions from here if there are any.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jens, for the talk. And yeah, you totally took us through the journey from the beginning to where you are today. I can see there are actually four questions here from the audience. One is from Håkan. Hi, Håkan. And so he's asking about the durable function. So how you're handling the cold start.
And that's where my knowledge is at the end. So I don't know what cold start is about. I might be in for a surprise. So if I'm to, interpret the question, I guess Håkon is asking if, because there is apparently some kind of time before the durable functions are, churning.
That's what I also know. Maybe Håkan, you can elaborate about the cold start as well, but that's also what I believe. Um, it is. That's how actually it is in JavaScript.
Okay. Yeah. So that depends on how long the cold start is. If that's the right interpretation of the question.
Hmm. So, Håkan, you can actually. He said that, yeah, that's right. There is some startup time for the functions that you need to take into account.
Okay. So depending on that time span, if it's a couple of minutes, it's not a big deal for us. Our current goal is that from we receive a file to a client can see it, we have a goal of 1 hour. And sometimes, and that's because sometimes we get files that change the way products are registered towards sales, and we have to rewrite large parts of the fact storage, and that is for some of our clients millions of rows. So that's why it takes some time, and a couple of minutes in cold start wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if I can get the parallelism at the end.
The the other question is, I assume, is from your colleague Eric. Why are you or we using Azure Analysis Services instead of Power BI Premium?
Yeah, I don't know if we are much longer. It seems that Power BI Premium is going to be a superset to Azure Analysis Services. So at the end of the day, we will be looking to go to Premium because in Power BI you have a lot of options currently that are not available in Azure Analysis Services. All of the AI functions, you can't execute those on an Azure Analysis Services model through Power BI.
And we have two more questions from Håkan. So, so in Synapse, are you using role-based access for access control, or how are you handling it?
We haven't rolled out Synapse, so we are not currently handling any access control there. So we're just using it for internal testing. And that's where I was looking into the future. I think Synapse is the right way to go for this. And obviously, there has to be some kind of meaningful way of handling security in Synapse as well. Currently, we use roles on an Azure Analysis Services. None of our clients get access to the data warehouse data. They do through a master data module that we built, but we kind of choose what they see and how we expose it. Other than that, it's the data dumps, and those are the only three ways that you can access data at us.
Got it. I guess before I go to the next question, I will also share my screen as well because we're running out of the time. So while you're answering that, we also will have this one here. So the next question is again from Håkan. So and about the Azure Synapse. So I guess I assume that the winner is going to be Håkan. So
Yes, we can safely say that.
yeah, so congratulations, Håkan, on this, and thanks for all the questions. So this is also
Yes.
about the Synapse.
This is about integrating machine learning pipelines into Synapse pipelines. And again, Synapse is a new experience to us. I haven't connected those, but it's at least a selling point for Microsoft that these are accessible within an integrated development environment. So in my opinion, it should be fairly straightforward to actually incorporate those machine learning pipelines into Azure Synapse Analytics. If not, the machine learning projects can be exposed via an endpoint, so you can call it in there. I'm not sure you would do that for millions, maybe billions of rows, but maybe if the right scenario comes up.
Great. Thank you, and also Håkan send a thank you here. And so if there is no more question from the audience, we can continue on the outro. But meanwhile, if anything cross your mind, maybe type it here. We still have few minutes left, and I can shorten the intro for sure, outro for sure. So the link, the QR code here is for you to actually to get your Azure Heroes Learner Badge for today. Just simply scan this QR code. If you never had Azure Heroes before, you need to download a wallet from our partner engine, And for that wallet, you need to put a password because these badges, they are NFT and you need to store it on your digital wallet. And you will need that password. And also remember to back up your wallet if you want to especially change your phone. And if you want to know more about this program, you can go to this URL, aka.ms slash Azure .heroes, and to read about our program, and also nominate your community friends or yourself for some of the badges that we have out there. And for you, Jens, thank you for speaking at our dev show today. We will send you also a kudos badge as a thank you
Thank
for
you.
helping us. Yeah.
Okay, then thank you for having me.
So and also you can check out our hashtag Azure Heroes to actually to see how community is actually talking about us. So and then the last thing is that this is your show, and we really need your feedback. We want to be better. We want to know that which topics you're interested in to bring the speaker there. So please spend few minutes to actually to fill out this form, and also there is a box where you can also give your feedback to Jens, and we are gathering all of this feedback and sending it to him as well. And each week also we are giving a swag box to one of the people that they fill out this form for us as well. So please send us your feedback. And as our upcoming event, next week, we will have again a talk about Azure Precept. And this is a pretty cool project. If I pronounce it properly, Precept Mobile is Goran, who is my co-host at the Maker Show. He recently made actually a Lego car, which is using Azure Precept to avoid the obstacles. It's actually a pretty cool one, and I personally looking forward to see this talk. And his project was also nominated on the Hackstar as well. So this is expect really cool stuff. And then the other thing is that right now, just after this talk, you can actually watch Microsoft Business Application Summit. Maybe yes, you can give a few words about this event.
Yes, well, this is the event where Dynamics meets Power Platform. So that should give you an idea of the audience. It's mostly business users usually. There are maybe business users with a developer tendency attending, but it is Dynamics and Power Platform that is predominant at this event.
Yeah, thank you. So if this is your topic, you can just go ahead and watch that one, and then we also recently started something called SaaS Academy, and on May 6th we are going to have Mike Martin into that event that is talking about the well architect framework. Mike actually was a speaker here as well, so some of you might already know him. So if this is the topic that you want to know about it, you can go to this URL, aka.ms slash SAS academy, and then register for the event. And on May 21st, we're definitely not going to have the dev show because build is going to start. And if you haven't registered for the conference, go ahead because the registration is open and it's 100% free event for all of you. And since this is online again this year, all of us, we can be there. So May the 5th is already today. So I would say that May the 11th, we are going to meet again. So thank you again for joining us and see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.